You're listening to the Served Up Show, a podcast that features inspiring beverage professionals and topic experts that share their passions through meaningful content. Your hostesses, Bridget Albert, is best known as the Market Fresh Mixologist, an industry mentor with over 25 years of experience. And I'm Julie Milroy, best known for my passion for leading change and helping others grow in their careers. Grab a cocktail and sit back. Let's learn how we can make a positive impact in our industry.
Hey y'all, it's Bridget here. Today we have two esteemed guests joining us to share their insights from the beverage world. We have Melissa Dowling, the editor of Cheers Magazine, a leading publication covering the vibrant beverage scene. Melissa brings a wealth of knowledge on trends, innovations, and the evolving tastes that shape our drinking experiences. Alongside Melissa, we also have Kyle Swartz, the editor of Beverage Dynamics and StateWays magazines, both respected authorities on the broader landscape of beverages. Kyle's expertise spans everything from industry regulations to consumer preferences, offering a comprehensive view of what's happening in the world of spirits, wine, and beer. So sit back, relax, grab yourself your favorite cocktail, and enjoy the show. Melissa and Kyle, welcome to Served Up. I'm so happy that you came back on our show. How wonderful is this?
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for having us back.
Yeah, we're thrilled to be asked back. One never knows how things go.
This is so true. Well, Melissa, I'd like to start off with you. Can you give us some updates since, what have you been up to? And have you seen any trends or changes in the beverage industry since the last time that we spoke?
Oh, yes, for sure. Well, just looking at some of the beverage trends for 2024, obviously tequila is still going strong, the no low alcohol. One of the things we're seeing now is a lot of the big hotel chains are rolling out programs with non-alcoholic drinks. And, it used to be you might have one mocktail on the menu, then there'd be a selection. But now what we're starting to see with some restaurants too is having the same drinks available with alcohol, and doing a non-alcoholic version so that it's just the exact same. It's not, differentiated anyway. Let me see what else. Savory martinis are a big deal, especially kind of tomato and cheese-based things, mushroom. But right now, I'm seeing a ton of like pea-based cocktails, like snap peas and green peas and anything. It's spring, things are in season. People want that freshness, something different. I think one of the big trends we're seeing is just people focusing on the drink experience, whether it's incredible garnish or, texture, smoke, things like that. Just, it's so much more than the drink. It's about, using all your senses and also just the feeling of that experience. We're really seeing, some incredible things. Like there was a place in New York that did something for Year of the Dragon. It's this Baijiu-based cocktail served in a tea set. It's served with ice creams that they make in-house. It's a large format thing. I think it serves 4 people. I can't remember. Might be smoking or something like that. But, it really makes it an experience, not just let's go out and get a drink somewhere. So that's been really important to a lot of operators.
Yeah, definitely seeing the same. And I just want to stick with you for just a moment because you did mention, low and no, which has really been a hot topic for the last couple of years. Have you seen the prices of these low and no cocktails on menus comparable to fully spirited based cocktails? And if you have, how are the restaurateurs, the bar owners really justifying that cost?
I'm definitely seeing them either the same price or just very slightly discounted, because I think that's absolutely what the consumers expect. But especially if you're using one of the no alcohol, spirits, a lot of times they cost as much as, a bottle of spirits. So, the restaurant, the bar has that cost plus the other ingredients and the time, to prepare it and shake it and all that. I think it was kind of a hurdle in the beginning where people that just didn't drink are like, "Oh, what do you mean? You're charging me this for a drink without alcohol?" But there's just so much interest in the category that it seems like it hasn't been as big a deal lately as you think that it would be with the consumers anyway. I think it can be hard for the bars to justify it, sometimes depending on the cost of the products. But there's just that the low no movement is just going crazy, and it's permanent. It's not just dry January, sober October, or any of that. And it's also within the same occasion. So you might have one with alcohol and then the next one might be without. So I think, especially along those lines, you're already used to paying that price for the drink. So you're just, making that choice I'm going to drink less tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you 110%. Plus, when they're using the non-alcoholic spirits, you also have to think about the quality and the care that it took to create those NA spirits as well. And that really adds to the cost, the pricing, and all of that good stuff. Kyle, your turn. How are you, my brother? Are you doing good?
I've been very well. Thank you for asking.
Amazing. I would love to throw the same question over to you. What trends are you seeing, or even some past trends that you're seeing that are finally slipping away?
Slipping away. Interesting that you say that, because I think one of the big trends right now that I'm watching, and Melissa's not going to be shocked at all when I say that, is everything going on in the whiskey scene right now. That's sort of my specialty these days. You talk about big trends that are going away or perhaps coming down a little bit. I think of the single barrel store pick whiskeys that were so popular 3 or 4 years ago. Everybody was doing a million store picks. Every single store you walked in had 3, 4 picks, if not multiple of that at any given time in their store. And that has absolutely come down. You see, I think there was oversaturation of the store pick whiskeys. And now when you walk into a store, you see a lot of these picks are stacking up. They're not moving. They're trying to find ways to move through the picks that haven't really sold well. My joke was that 2024 was the year of the bag. That's a joke I've been using in some of the whiskey forums, if we can be a little bit more loose in the things we say on this podcast. But you saw it by when I say year of the bag, I mean stores were using allocated items as a way to move through store picks that weren't moving. In other words, you had to buy an allocated item. You had to buy one of the store picks to get the allocated item. Mm-hmm. So I think the store picks have definitely come down a little bit in terms of popularity, in terms of a trend that was really popular a couple of years ago, but has come down. And that kind of leads right into where whiskey is in general right now. And we were just recording a podcast before this, Melissa and I, talking about some of the biggest trends we noticed in the past year. And this is certainly one of the biggest trends, is a leveling off in spirits. Now, it's not dipping. Sales of spirits are not dipping, but the growth has gone from double digits into single digits into almost flat, certainly for whiskey. I mean, it's tough to keep up the sales numbers that we were seeing 4 or 5 years ago. And certainly COVID, like many things in COVID, the numbers were inflated just by the changing consumer habits. People were buying mass scale. People were getting really, really into the nitty gritty. They were stuck at home. They were researching whiskeys. They had to have every single whiskey. They were going out there buying every single whiskey. That behavior has certainly come down a little bit. So we're seeing sales of spirits certainly leveling off, which leads us into an interesting time of what's next for spirits. Again, we were saying all of this in our last podcast that we were recording earlier. Where I was saying we're not post-COVID anymore. We're post-COVID, where we've gotten away from that period after COVID. So we really are in kind of a brand new world. So how are you going to get consumers' attention now? One thing I'm seeing a lot of is every single whiskey brand now has to have a brand home. I don't know, the last time you've been in Louisville, the last time you've been in Bardstown, or just anywhere in Kentucky, every single whiskey brand is building a multi-million-dollar brand home right now to attract tourism, to get liquid to lips. People come into these places, these enormous, and not just distilleries, obviously, but like Napa and Sonoma style consumer visitor experience centers. It's remarkable. It's like something out of Disney World sometimes. There's no doubt about it. Whiskey tourism is booming in Kentucky right now, and they are the new Sonoma and Napa. I'm in that area, Louisville, several times a year, and every time I go, I just see throngs of visitors. Being known in the whiskey scene, I get asked questions all the time about what to do in Louisville. I'm bombarded with these kind of questions. So I think that's one way that brands are trying to capture consumer dollars in a time where perhaps spirit sales are leveling off elsewhere. One other trend I want to bring up, as long as I'm talking about whiskey, big change in the whiskey sourcing scene. MGP, which was one of, if not the largest sourcing house in the country and makers of phenomenal products for, more than a century, some of the best whiskeys in the country getting produced at MGP, bought by all kinds of different brands and then bottled as their own brands. MGP has dialed back their sourcing. And so now, because of that, you see other producers dialing up their sourcing. Perhaps, for instance, Bardstown Bourbon Company is sourcing a lot more. I believe that 1792 is sourcing a lot more. You see Green River sourcing a lot more. And you see a lot more sourcing houses being built right now all across Kentucky. These multi-million-dollar projects to build distilleries, not necessarily with the goal to distill and bottle their own products, but to distill and bottle products for other people. Be the source of the whiskey that other brands come in, purchase that whiskey, and then bottle and sell it under their own brand. So that's an enormous change in the scene right now as well.
I love that reference that you just made from kind of the Bourbon Trail mirroring Napa. I spent a lot of time in Louisville as well, and I love what they are doing. They're making bourbon so accessible, not only to bourbon fans, not only to the bartenders, but really bringing that awareness on how delicious and how, bourbon really does have a place in American history. So when I go into the tasting rooms, or when you say like Disney World, like Heaven Hill for, the whole experience that's downtown
exactly
Louisville.
What I was thinking of, Heaven
It's
Hill.
so much like Disney. I love Disney. Bring it on. Anytime you can make a spirit fun, let's not poo-poo that. Let's celebrate it, right? Because that's just going to bring in more awareness of the category. So before I move on to another topic with Melissa, I do want to stay on whiskey for just a second. I want to, get your insights and, even your opinion and let's talk about how you feel personally about the flavored whiskey category. First of all, do you feel like it's still whiskey or is it more of a liqueur? And do we see this changing anytime soon? Do we see it going away, or we just keep seeing more and more flavors entering the market?
No, I don't see it going anywhere because these products are selling well. I mean, look what happened with Fireball. That product sells like bananas. Everyone's buying that product all the time. Look at Screwball whiskey. That product sells so much. I remember the first time I drank Screwball whiskey, it was at a spirits expo at Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut. And they do an annual wine and spirits festival. That's fantastic. I've covered it for years. This was pre-COVID. This was 2019. And there's 50 brands in the expo hall, maybe more, maybe 100 brands. And I always take note of which table has the longest line. That's how you know what the most popular product is. And the longest line in 2019 was for Screwball. There must have been 40 people in line to taste Screwball. And I had never even heard of it before then. I waited in line, I tasted, and I was like, that's pretty good. Not going to lie. Now, I mean, I'm an enormous whiskey snob and nerd, so I'm not going to drink these products. But obviously, there's an enormous demand for them, and they're made very, very well. Do you want to call them whiskey? Sure. If it meets the criteria, sure. I know it happens with Screwball that I believe it's the minis. They're not technically allowed to call them whiskey because of some kind of production method. I'm pretty certain about that. Whatever. As long as they're legally putting the right product on the label, I don't really care. I'm not one of those purists who gets all up in arms in the whiskey nerd community that I'm a part of. There's plenty of people who get all up in arms about that. I don't care. I'm always in favor. If you like drinking it, drink it. I'm not going to get on you for drinking this over that. You're allowed to drink whatever you want to drink. I'm not going to drink it. It's not my cup of tea, but it's certainly a cup of tea for a lot of other people. And, good for them. Drink what you want to drink. And if it's a well-made product, enjoy it. Again, Screwball, phenomenally made product. Fireball, phenomenally made product. A lot of these flavored whiskeys, they taste great. Great in cocktails, great straight. Yeah, good stuff.
I agree with you. I think if you can pull off making a Reese's peanut butter cup like old fashioned, I'm going to order that.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Probably more than one.
Yeah.
And you can't really do it without the peanut butter whiskey, right? So, hey, as long as it tastes delicious, I'm on board.
I want to say, I saw one chain, very major chain. I'm not going to name names. One of the major chains of liquor stores in the South created their own version of Screwball and just bottled it under their own brand. And they're selling a ton of it.
I mean, bet they are.
It's probably the same recipe. They're just like, oh, this tastes great. We're going to do it ourselves.
Hey, Melissa, I would love to move on to you and talk a little bit about the world of RTDs. It's just booming still. It's amazing. I was in Binny's the other day, which is a very large liquor store here in the Chicagoland area. And it's incredible the amount of RTDs. And anymore, I love to purchase like my friends, Craft House, Social Hour, whatever it might be. But then I'm just so attracted by the cool cans, not even caring so much what's in them. And that's how I'm trying them lately. So I would love to hear from you, what's happening in the world of ready to drinks.
Well, they just keep coming. I mean, I get so many, and they're big brands, small brands, bars and restaurants doing their own. It's just the market we can't cover them all. So the market can't sustain them all. So I think also how you classify them is difficult, because at first everything was, FMBs, hard seltzer, they're kind of with beer, and that's still how it is. But now the spirit-based ones, are they spirits? Are they their own thing? So, I mean, I guess that's more of an industry problem, but I think they're really pulling from all of the spirit categories, I would say. I think, as we see things either decreasing or flattening, I think a lot of those sales are just going to RTDs because it's easy. You don't have to mix them. You can try it. A lot of the national brands, it's a mixer that like, a Coca-Cola or ginger ale brand, things like that. I don't think it's that hard to make like a cola and ginger ale and whiskey, or a rum and Coke or things like that. But it does speak to the whole portability of like just being able to go home and, pop a can or open a bottle, or to take it someplace where you would have only been having a beer, like the beach or a picnic, things like that. I'm not sure how that's going to fit in with the on-premise. If you go out for a drink, like I mentioned, that experience, do you go out expecting an RTD, either a mass market one or, I'm just not sure. It's a good convenience item for like a patio service and things like that. But, I didn't think hard seltzer was going to do much on premise, and it's been very successful. So yeah, I really don't know. It's, you can only stock so many, and how do you make those decisions? So it's not sustainable, but I think also here to stay.
Yeah, it sure is. And like you said, like, how can you even tell? Like, right. That's why when I go in, I'm like, who has the prettiest can today? That's what I'm bringing home for my party at home. You know what I mean? Because there's just so many to choose from, whether you're at like a Total Wine, for me, my grocery stores here that the aisles are nuts, like the Jewel Oscos, the Mariano's. It's wild. It is truly amazing. Can you also talk to ready to serve, like a Delola, which I know has a kind of a differentiation from the RTDs, and being that, it's in the bottle and maybe has more than one serving in it. Are you seeing any movement on that category?
I'm not yet on premise, because I'm not sure people would really get it. But I just don't know that the on premise people have, embraced that so much, because it's just kind of weird. It's not really your cocktail, but it's not that convenient. I suppose you could still, pour it, garnishing, zhuzh it up a little bit. So I really don't know. I do see that one as more of an at-home entertaining thing, because you've sort of lost both the convenience aspect and I guess also like the branding too. A lot of the cocktail bars are doing canning their own cocktails, which started during the pandemic, and then, selling them at the bar. So I could sort of see that more, whether you're getting it to go or, maybe sitting down. It's, the bar made it, you know what it's going to taste like, but it's kind of along the lines of cocktails on tap, which, are very fast, cost effective. Most people don't care, but I think you will have some consumers that are like, wait, I'm paying how much? And you're just going to open a tap and throw a lime in there. I think most operators say if it's a great drink and people get it fast, they don't have a problem with it. So it's just, I guess it depends on what, your expectations when you go to a bar.
Yeah, absolutely. Kyle, I would love to hear from you on the topic of RTDs.
I had an RTD comment I wanted to make there, which was, I've said this on our podcast before, but I saw you guys were talking about canned RTDs on premise. I tell a story about, I was recently visiting, my wife and I and some of our friends were meeting up at one of, if not the most popular brewery in Massachusetts. I'm not going to name names because it's a bit of a negative story, but if you know anything about craft beer, you know who I'm talking about. And the place was mobbed. My wife is not a beer fan. And so she ordered a cocktail at this place. And when she ordered a cocktail, I was keeping an eye on the bartender. He opened a canned cocktail. He took it out of a bucket of ice, opened it up, poured it in a plastic cup, and then charged her like $12 for it. It might have been more. You talk about good margins. So maybe there's a way to use the RTDs on premise. Melissa makes a good point, though. It still tasted good. It's like not that you were complaining about the flavor of it, but certainly it caught my eye of, hey, that was like a $3 RTD. You just poured in a plastic cup and handed to my wife and charged her the same that is a craft cocktail that we would have ordered at a real bar.
My gosh, that's actually brilliant. And I don't know if you both realize this. My husband and I own a brewery here in my small town, as well as a brewery and a bar in the town next to us. So I'm listening. Look out, Shannon, Illinois.
I went from being angry to impressed. It's kind of how I felt.
Yeah, that's kind of genius.
I agree. But and RTDs off-premise, again, obviously I edit Beverage Dynamics, or the off-premise, nationally published off-premise magazine. RTDs continue to perform very well off-premise. I continue to see them selling well. I continue to see them taking up more and more space. As Melissa said earlier, they're eating into everything. They're eating into spirits, they're eating into beer, they're eating into wine. Wine is getting crushed by RTDs. It's not because people are drinking wine-based RTDs, it's because they're just drinking RTDs instead of wine. I think a lot of people who would normally be consumers of wine have just instead started picking up RTDs. I'm a millennial, to tell my age here. When I go hang out with all my millennial friends, I see every single one, male, female, doesn't matter their background, doesn't matter their socioeconomic standing. They're all drinking RTDs, every single one. When we hang out now, big parties, the cooler is filled with RTDs. I'm the only one who brings whiskey and beer anymore. I feel like you guys stopped drinking what I like to drink. You all just drink RTDs now, and it's the truth. These are not alcohol nerds, or at least this group of friends that I hang out with here. They're all doing very well. They tend to be lawyers for whatever reason, lawyers and coders. That's who I hang out with. And anyways, they're all drinking RTDs. Every single one of them, to a person, they're all drinking RTDs.
Probably because they're delicious.
Yes, good products. Not trying to say
they taste good, and there's no fussiness, right?
They're so easy.
Yeah, right.
I like the movement towards higher ABV RTDs. I see that as being popular among consumers as well. That started a couple of years ago and it's really taken off recently. Obviously, there's always a place for 4 or 5% RTDs that you can quote unquote crush all day long. But I think the 8-9% RTDs, and there's some that are even higher. I see people drinking those as well. I think they like that there's a bit more bang for your buck. Obviously, they're not drinking as many of them. And that tends to be the habit you see among a lot of younger drinkers now anyways. Drink less but better, or less but more. And so I think that fits into that trend as well.
Well, that could also be a reason. Sorry, Bridget.
No, please go on.
The example with Kyle's wife, if it's a full can of a cocktail, that's like 2 drinks, right? So, it sounds like the bar is being shifty, and maybe they are, but at the same time, she'd be getting a double if it was like a full serving. And I forget the brand, but it was an RTD, and it was in those like mini cans, like a single serving. And this particular one was a Jungle Bird, which is like my favorite cocktail. And it wasn't bad, but I couldn't believe how strong it was. This little tiny can. I was like, wow. So I think you do have to be careful because people consume them the same way, the convenience aspect, they consume them the same way that they would a beer. And if it's like a proper drink, you're getting a lot more alcohol.
Another thing with RTDs too, and this is a big trend we're seeing, is kind of the blurring of lines of what is alcohol related products at this point. Because you're seeing a lot of products come out like Fisher's Lemonade. I guess that was always alcoholic, but hard Mountain Dew is a great example of this. You have all of these products that are hard versions of traditionally non-alcoholic products. And these all tie into the RTD space. Blanking on the popsicle now. Why can't I? What's the popsicle?
Creamsicle? Or?
Thank you. There's a creamsicle one. There's another one. There's a lot of these. And of course, they're tying into nostalgia. But it is kind of blurring the lines. Where do you put these products on the shelves? If you're selling the non-alcoholic traditional versions of these, most liquor stores sell Mountain Dew somewhere in their store. You're going to be hard pressed to find a liquor store that doesn't sell soda. And so like if you have hard Mountain Dew next to non-hard Mountain Dew, it can be confusing for consumers. As I mentioned during the prep for this show, I also edit StateWays magazine, which is the official magazine of control states. And I can tell you that the control state officials are freaking out about this. I go to all the control state conferences, and this is a topic at every single control state conference these days. They are all trying to figure out how to handle this. They all have concerns because they're all regulators. They're both businessmen and businesswomen and regulators. So they're all trying to figure out how exactly to handle these products as well. And I don't know the answer yet. This is an evolving topic right now.
I would love to talk about regulation and kind of like that green high elephant that is definitely in the room. And that is the THC RTDs. I'm going to stick with you, Kyle, just to kind of see, what your thoughts are on the trend, because they are not so regulated right now. And I did very recently, I judged the High Spirit Awards, which is part of the LA Spirit Awards. And it was fascinating. First of all, the quality, the taste, and how very comparable it is to a regular RTD. So I would love to hear your thoughts.
Did you like the taste of these products? Because
I found so many that I absolutely did that kind of, there's several products that I actually really do enjoy that are within the THC category of RTDs, ones that are low in sugar, low in calories, and you don't taste the green so much. And so if it says that it's, citrus, lime, and mint, those flavors are coming forward before it just, might feel like you're just drinking diluted marijuana. Nobody wants that. It's disgusting. And so I was literally blown away. But would love to hear your thoughts, because I know that it's a popular category. You
said diluted marijuana. I call it drinking bong water. That's what I think.
That's what I was going to say.
And there's a brand called Bong Water. I tried it last week. I'm not kidding you. See, look at us.
Did it live up to its name?
It was delicious. I'm serious. It's making some waves, this category. So I'd love to hear both of your thoughts on it.
I'm glad to hear that you thought the flavors tasted good, because that has been my critique of this category for many, many years now. It's that I honestly, I don't think I have tasted a product that I've liked. And you're right, because they tend to be high in sugar, obviously, to mask that very bitter flavor that you get from the cannabis. And so the dream in this category, the goal in this category for so many years was to find a product that was low in sugar while also being capable of masking the bitterness of the cannabis. I assume it has to do with something with a solubility. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but they must have had, I know that has advanced dramatically in the last couple of years. So it sounds like there perhaps is another advancement in the last year or two where they were able to get the THC refined in such a manner that the flavor is not coming through as much. Because I personally, I can't really say I've tasted a lot of THC products in the last year, just by nature of the conferences I did not attend. So I'm glad to hear that the flavors have improved, because that was my one big criticism of this category, was that the flavors are terrible. But I think the effects are great. I agree. I do get sent THC products. I do get sent CBD products. I've tasted a lot of them. I like the form factor a lot. I like that it's more social, perhaps, and, lighting up a vape pen or lighting up a joint or a piece or whatever you want to call it. It's much more social, just sitting around and sipping. I've interviewed a lot of people who are behind these brands. And one of the comments they always make is that, human beings were drinking animals. I'm not saying like drinking alcohol, just in general. We like to always have something to sip on. I was drinking coffee. I was drinking water during this podcast. It's very true. And so I think the THC beverage fits so much more naturally into our daily habits than any other of the form factors. Now, it hasn't caught on as much as the other form factors, but of course, it's because it's newer. I'm sent samples of these products, and looking across my room, I see a 750 ml of a THC beverage. And what I like about these too is you can microdose with these things so much easier. The point isn't to get extraordinarily stoned all at once. So maybe some people like that, but you can take little sips throughout the day too, especially when it's a 750 ml container, and you can just microdose throughout the day. And that's a very different experience than getting like super duper stoned and losing yourself for a couple hours. So I like these products a lot. I like the form factor. I'm happy to hear the flavors improving. And I think they're tie much more into our natural routines of our daily lives.
I love everything that you just said. And just to add on to that, what I enjoy most about these, and they are going to be my new summer crushers, by the way, knowing that, first of all, they're low in calorie, low in sugar. I'm a known mixologist. Jesus Christ, when you come to my house, it's like, what are you making me be? And I'm going to hand you an RTD because I want to be in my pool. So I love that also the THC has different levels that you can select. And so in a 12-ounce can, there might, they all come in different can sizes. There might just be like 2.5. Well, my tolerance is like low. So it's maybe a 5. So I know that I can have 2 of those. And I'm good. I'm not lost out of my mind. I don't have that drunken kind of icky feeling, but I'm just very chill, right? But then some of them go as high as 20, which would be somebody for a higher tolerance, or like a 10. And so those are definitely things to look at. And I love that that's on the can. So you kind of know what you're getting into, just like an ABV, right?
Well, you say that. You say that, but my concern with the industry is, do people know what that THC levels mean? I mean, you and I know because I feel like we're savvy with cannabis, but my concern is the people who are just getting into cannabis may not understand what 2.5% THC means versus 20% THC. Now, they understand one is a larger number than the other, but I mean, when you hear about 120 proof whiskey versus 80 proof whiskey, I feel like most people in their minds can figure out how they're going to feel based on when they consume that product. But when they see 10% THC versus 5% THC, they may not be able to mentally prepare for what's going to happen to them. Again, I'm pro cannabis as pro cannabis can be, but that remains a concern of mine. That remains a concern of the regulators, is the consumer education needed to let people understand what that THC number means for what they're about to experience. I don't think we're there yet for the mass consumer.
We are not there yet for sure. But, I believe that it is, the education needs to be there. And I can tell you, like the bottle shops that I go to, like Iron and Glass, which is right down the street from our brewery, that has a really just a nice little niche selection of these. They're very educated. So I know that I feel safe. And I'm going to a place where they're actually going to tell me like, hey, B, we just got this in today. This is what it is. This is, what the strand is. Sometimes you might even know that's being used. And so I do think that the education needs to be there. And it really is upon those that sell it to educate their customers 1,000%. I am so with you. And it's like the wild, wild west out here because there really isn't any regulations around it. And a lot of times, I'm going to tell you this, it is breweries that are making it.
Illegally.
Why not? Melissa, I want to get your thoughts on this category as well. Where do you see it going? Do you see it just being a fad? Do you see that it's here to stay? I can tell you Cheech and Chong has one. and they've been around forever. Give me your thoughts.
I think they are probably here to stay as pot becomes legal more places. As you were saying, it is like the Wild West, and a lot of people don't know what they're doing with it. And I think that's a problem with the on-premise because it's so much about, try to avoid over-serving people. And especially if you're not used to these kind of beverages and you don't know when they're going to hit, there's a much longer lag time. So you could pregame and have some at home, go to a bar and be fine, and then all of a sudden be really, really high, and you're at a bar drinking. And I think it's also harder to tell if someone has been overserved, overstimulated, or whatever with with those kind of products versus, the signs of drunkenness. So I think, there's a lot of legal issues and just people trying to be tentative about it, because you do need that education. Here's the strain. Here's how it's going to make you feel. And a bartender really doesn't have that. About 7 years ago or something like that I was seeing a lot of places in California doing, CBD drinks, things like that, like mixing it into the cocktail. And I remember there was this beautiful one and served in a coupe glass and had like some kind of green stuff stenciled over a marijuana leaf. And I got one and had a little bit, but it was like lunchtime and I was with my boss and we had meetings. So I don't really know how it made me feel, but all of a sudden it seemed like that kind of stopped. So I don't know if it was a legal issue or just people not wanting to get in trouble or kind of wait till it's more figured out. So I think it's much trickier in the on-premise.
Yeah, I think that we could have a whole conversation, and we should schedule a whole nother podcast just on this, because, you're right. People are mixing it with alcohol, and that's outside of the RTD, which I'm actually not a fan of. I just think that that's a problem waiting to happen. I really do. It's like kind of like one or the other, guys. I don't know that we need to combine both.
It's dangerous.
But that's my personal feeling. Now, have I ever seen anybody get into a bar fight that was stoned? No. Have I seen them fall asleep at the bar and eat a bunch of nachos? Yeah. So, it is like you said, Melissa, it's a totally different effect, right? And it is hard to detect. Like, is this person just tired, or are they are they high? Like, I don't know. So it's, we are definitely in this world of discovery for sure. Even though people have been getting high forever, this is not something that is cannabis is not new at all. But it's good that we're having conversations about it, because hopefully through our conversations, more education will come out and we can feel safe when we have the products.
Yeah.
100%.
I had another cannabis comment. I know you said you didn't want to make this the cannabis podcast, but just very quickly.
No, please bring it on.
Speaking of
she said she did.
I mean, we're still searching for a way to do a correct cannabis DUI. Like Melissa was saying, we don't have any way of measuring whether someone is overly intoxicated with cannabis. And a lot of that, the current method, blood testing or any kind of cannabis test, has a lot to do with how much you're smoking in the months that lead up to it and your body mass index. So it's a extremely non-scientific method right now. I've talked to regulars about this, and they call it just use your eyeballs to tell whether someone is stoned method. It's like, is that good?
Yeah, it's wild. Another bottle shop that I go to called Crooked Arm, they have a very limited selection as well, but they won't sell anything over 2.5 for all these reasons, because it is so new. And then also the other one that I mentioned, it is take and go home. You don't consume on property with it, on premise. So it's interesting how, the different bottle shops are managing, this category. But moving on from that, I'd like to go back to Melissa just to hear about, within the world of beverage, are you seeing, beyond the trends, are you seeing any other applications that are being used in cocktails, whether it's like new funky glassware? Remember, we were also obsessed with like punch bowls for like a freaking decade, which was great. I love punch. I love anything that's communal, and then there was, of course, like the coupe glass, which is still, very hip and trendy. With the 90s coming back, which is, super fun with the espresso martinis, for instance. I'm hoping to see the Cosmo. I'm obsessed with Sex and the City. It's back on Netflix right now. Rewatching it for like the 10th time. It's great. Are we seeing anything with like the glassware going back to these eras, or maybe some of the tools of the trade?
Yes, definitely. And I think it goes back to that experiential thing. You want it to look amazing in a glass that you might not have, or another serving vessel, from the super high end silver punch bowl to the plastic fish bowl with gummy fish. Just people really want that visual presentation. So I think that was one of the trends that we highlighted for this year, was going to be like more dramatic drink presentation, whether it's, the flights, there are some kind of plate holders that are like vertical. So it really makes a statement going through the restaurant and then in front of, the person at the bar or the table. So I definitely expect to see more of that. And I mean, there's some amazing glasses, ones shaped like birds and little bathtubs and things like that. So cute. The big problem is people steal them. They walk out the door and they are not cheap. So I think, nobody wants to frisk people when they leave or accuse people of, stealing things, but it does happen. And it is, kind of like with the Moscow Mule cups, years ago, just go out the door in somebody's bag. So it's kind of balancing that. But I suppose if you go to a nice cocktail bar and pay a lot for a drink and the experience, hopefully you're not going to steal the glass.
Can you imagine having to clean out like the bird? Like it's not going to go in the dishwasher. And if you sell that's awful. I mean, no, it's a beautiful presentation, but somebody has to clean that out and polish it. And oh my God, I feel bad for that bar back. I just really do. Like bring back the days of the oversized martini with that stupid zigzag stem. Like everyone's life easy.
Yeah. I mean, definitely the 90s are back. And I am seeing more Cosmos. Pornstar martinis are sort of coming back. The espresso martini refuses to leave, but people are, doing different things with it, different base spirits and things like that. Any kind of spritz drink, bubbly things, gin and tonics are really big. Gin is always supposed to be on the verge of taking off, but there's definitely more interest. I don't know if the consumption data will back it up, but as people kind of discover, like a aperitivo hour from Italy and Spanish gin and tonics with different garnishes, different styles of tonic. I mean, it's much different than, kind of the default order at a summer wedding or something like that. I think people are interested in discovering things like that. So
I'm glad that they are. It's an exciting time. It really, really is. Kyle, do you have anything to add about the trends, the vessels that we're using and the garnishes?
I was just going to tell a silly story.
I would love to hear it.
I have a friend who Melissa knows who may or may not be a member of a spirits panel in Connecticut that we sit on. And my friend, who doesn't have an ounce of shame, stole one of these very fancy glasses from a certain brewery in Connecticut, shattered it, and then attempted to bring it back and have it replaced.
What?
I watched this happen in real time, and I couldn't believe it. As you might imagine, he was not met with a good reception when he attempted this. I just couldn't believe the brazenness of him to do it. I was kind of impressed.
Wow.
That's amazing. We can't have anything nice. That's what I'm saying.
We can't have nice things
for everyone. That's what you get because you just break in everything. And
attempt to get your stolen product replaced for free.
Absolutely. Melissa, can you tell our listeners where they can find you?
I am at cheersonline.com.
Wonderful. Kyle, same question. Where can our listeners find you?
BeverageDynamics.com. Look for us on social media under the same name as well. We're always posting. We love to post what all of the new products are. That tends to be what we're posting the most when we're not posting features. Same with Cheers. The way that Cheers posts what the new cocktails are. So if you want to know what all of the newest products coming out in the beverage alcohol scene are, keep an eye on Beverage Dynamics because we're posting these things in real time.
I love it. I love it. Did you hear that, listeners? I know our listeners are always wanting to know what's next, what's here, what's now. So this is such a great resource for all of you listeners to definitely check out what Kyle and Melissa are up to with Beverage Dynamics and Cheers Magazine. They're doing the work for you, which is amazing. So thank you. And on behalf of the Served Up family, I just want to wish you both just some great health and a lot of peace. Thank you so much for coming on our show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us back.
Thank you. It was fun.
Thanks for listening. Served Up is brought to you by Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits. Produced by Zunu.online. Music by We Killed the Lion can be found on Spotify. Make sure to subscribe to be notified of future Served Up episodes. Cheers!